Welcome back to another iDoctor UK video. In this video we're going to be replacing the screen on this Samsung A21s after the phone became submerged in water and the display just started showing this purple sort of damaged LCD screen. To start off the repair we need to remove the plastic back cover from this device, and to do that we'll be using a heat mat set at 70 degrees C. You can use a heat gun or hairdryer to do this, although I always recommend the heat mat because it evenly distributes heat across the phone and can be just left there for a few minutes whilst it gets hot. After it's had 5 minutes on the heat mat, take a single-sided razor blade and create a small gap between the mid-frame bezel and the plastic back cover. Add a couple of drops of isopropyl alcohol and then use a plastic pick tool to create a larger gap and cut through the adhesive. Run the pick backwards and forwards to cut away the adhesive on the phone. And work your way around all 4 of the edges until the back cover can be removed. It's important to note that there is a fingerprint sensor on the back cover of this phone, and there is a flex cable that runs along this line here. However, when you lift it up, it should disconnect itself. However, when you lift it away, the flex cable isn't connected to the phone and should disconnect itself quite easily. Once you're into the phone, we're going to put the heat mat out of the way now. Now that we got the back cover removed, there is another layer to remove, which is this mid-frame bezel. Before we start tackling that, we have to remove the SIM tray. Then take a crosshead screwdriver and remove the 16 crosshead screws that secure down this mid-frame bezel. There's 8 screws securing the top half in place and another 8 screws at the bottom of the device. All the screws that we remove from this mid-frame are all the same size, so it doesn't matter if they get too muddled up. Just make sure that you keep hold of them all so that we can reinstall them later. Now that the screws are removed, we're going to take the plastic pick again, and starting just where the SIM tray was, we need to unclip the mid-frame chassis by running the pick all the way around the edges until it's loose and can be removed. Before we start removing the guts of the phone, I'll always add a drop of isopropyl alcohol around the battery so that that's soaking in, loosening the adhesive so that it's easy to get out. Let's continue disassembling this phone now by using a plastic spudger to disconnect the battery, followed by the single black screw just below the camera assembly. Use the spudger again to disconnect the LCD flex, but leave the other 2 cables attached. We can now release the subboard by carefully prying under this right-hand side of the board to lift it out of its position. If you notice that I don't disconnect this blue coaxial cable, we can leave that connected and just pop it out of its little channel, which means that the whole subboard, flex cable, main board and coaxial cable can be released together and lifted up as one. There's no need to pry the battery out of there. Instead, use a suction cup like this one and lift the battery out of place, just like that. We can now discard this broken screen, and the screen that I'm using for this repair is a genuine Samsung service pack, and I'll stick a link for where you can buy this in the description below. Because this part comes with the frame already attached, reassembly is just a simple case of reversing the steps that we've just taken, starting with reinstalling the battery, remove any plastic films on there, and then carefully line up the logic board and subboard into place. We can now reconnect the flex cable for the LCD and carefully run our coaxial cable into its little groove using the spudger. Now it's that little black screw just below the cameras. Resecure that and reconnect the battery. Now we can reinstall the mid-frame bezel by placing it over the phone and applying pressure to all the edges to make sure that it's secured into place. Reinstall the SIM tray and finally resecure the 16 crosshead screws. If you like this sort of repair content, please make sure that you subscribe to our channel. And if you found this video useful for your repair, make sure you give it a thumbs up and leave me a comment below. Finally, all that remains to do is to reinstall the back cover. For this one, because we've got the flex cable for the fingerprint sensor, let's start by securing down the left-hand edge of the back cover. Then with the phone ajar, use some tweezers to make sure that the fingerprint sensor flex cable secures into place correctly. This can be really fiddly to get this right. With that secured, we can just apply pressure to all four edges and boot the device. As you can see, we've got image on this one now. When we were taking it apart, there wasn't any water damage visible inside, so it looks like the water damage was isolated to the screen. And I'm satisfied that this phone is now repaired. Thanks for watching the video and see you next time.